welcome to Peak Moment. I'm Janaea Donaldson. When we think about energy declining, particularly oil and natural gas, the first thing a lot of folks think about is what do I need to do individually? Or people may be thinking about what can a whole municipality or even our whole country be doing. I'm looking at meeting with some folks here on Vashon Island in Washington State who are asking the question, what can we as a community do about our energy use? So I'm here with two guests. Thank you for joining me. I have Rita Schenck with the Institute for Environmental Research and Education. We've got a founder and executive director. Thank you. And Deirdre Grace, who's with the outreach group for the Citizens for Vashon Public Utilities. Right? Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Rita, I'm going to toss the ball to you. Tell me how the Institute got started, what you are doing, what's about energy.
Okay, what's about energy? The Institute was founded almost 10 years ago now. I had been working in industry as an environmental manager and was pretty disturbed that a lot of the things we do to protect the environment through regulatory systems and other methods were not actually protecting the environment. Sometimes we're causing damage. And so the whole purpose of the Institute was to support fact-based environmental decision making so that we would have the facts and we would make better decisions, because otherwise you're just flipping a coin. A lot of what we do revolves around measuring the environmental impacts of products. There's a technique called life cycle assessment.
Life cycle assessment, okay.
Life cycle assessment, LCA for short. It's a science-based method of measuring the environmental impacts of products. There are international standards on how to do that. And I represented the U.S. in negotiating those standards. So an important part of what the Institute does is work with life cycle assessment, and our flagship program is the American Center for Life Cycle Assessment, which is the professional society for life cycle assessment in the U.S. When you do a lot of life cycle assessments, you pretty soon figure out where environmental impacts come in our economy. And energy is like the top of the list. No matter what kind of product you look at, energy is going to be very, very important in how much environmental impact that product has on its entire life cycle, from cradle to grave.
So you're looking at the energy to produce, to get the materials.
To produce, to distribute, to use, to dispose. When you do a life cycle assessment, you look at the environmental impacts over the entire life cycle. And you actually measure things like climate change and acid rain and biodiversity. So that is sort of the DNA of our organization. We want to get all the facts in one place, and life cycle assessment is a good way to do that. So we've developed several programs based on life cycle assessment, but we're here to talk about our energy program. We are here on Vashon Island, which is a wonderful, wonderful place to do sustainability projects. And we asked the question, was it possible for a community to be energy independent? And by that we said, make all your energy locally from renewable resources.
Okay, you're talking about make all your energy right on the island? Or right around the edges of the island?
Right on the island.
On the island, okay.
So about 5 years ago, we started studying this. And we said, okay, the first question was, is it physically possible to run the island on renewable energy? And we measured all the energy that was being used in transportation, in our houses, in business, electricity, the whole energy.
And natural gas or propane?
Natural gas, okay. Propane, okay. Firewood, everything. And then we said, okay, is there enough renewable energy on the island to run the island? And the answer was, oh yeah. There's like way more renewable energy available on the island to run the island than we need.
Wow, what an exciting thing to know.
It was a very exciting thing to know. And I have to say here that we're on an island and we use a lot of energy here because we're kind of northerly and we have a ferry to feed energy to and that sort of thing.
So you figured your ferries in?
Yes, we measured the ferry usage too. And so we use a lot of energy here. But this is the cool thing. There's like maybe 20 times more renewable energy available on the island than we need, even though we use a lot. And even though this is a really not a very good place to make renewable energy. We don't have a good wind resource, we don't have a terrific solar resource, We have some biomass because we have forests and yard waste that we could use to make energy. But we have way more energy than we need to run the island. And my take from that is that every community can do this. It's not just Vashon Island.
So if you can do it, you're saying any community
We can do it. Anybody can do it.
That's pretty radical.
It's a question of political will. And so we did a couple more studies because people said, well, it's great that the engineering looks good. What about blah, blah, blah. So we interviewed people and we did a survey over the entire island to say, do you want to be energy independent? Do you want to run on renewable energy? And we surveyed every postal patron on the island, and we got pretty good response. We got about 5 or 6% response, which is not bad from a mailing. And 77% of the responses said yes. So this island really cares about the environment, and the big question they asked was, what about money? People were willing to pay a bit more, but they were worried about particularly low and moderate income people not being able to afford renewable energy. So then we did our final study, which was, let's look at the economics. And we looked at the economics of energy on a global scale. We did an intense economic analysis, which showed that fossil fuel was increasing in its costs anywhere from 4 to 13% per year, inflation adjusted. Okay, so that's after inflation. You still are increasing your energy costs a lot every year. And at the same time, renewable energy is getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And so we said, okay, what does this mean for the island? And we looked at the island at 3 different scales. We looked at the building where our office is. We looked at the neighborhood where we happen to be filming, the Vashon co-housing neighborhood, and we looked at the island as a whole, and we said, is it possible? What are the economics for going to energy independence at those 3 scales? And it was favorable at every scale. It was very favorable at every scale. And in fact, the amazing thing is that the island can go energy independent and save $55 million.
Out of how much? I mean,
out of
$55 million out of.
Well, $55 million is a lot of money when you only have 11,000 people.
No kidding. That's a lot per person.
That's a lot
Absolutely.
per person. So typically on the island, people are spending on the order of $10 to $15 million a year on energy. And what we found was that you could reduce that energy consumption by 70%, 70. Almost 3/4 of our energy is just going out through our walls. And we can fix that. That was our message. And it's true not just here on Vashon Island, but anywhere.
So what you're saying is, step 1, insulate.
Insulate.
So you're conserving the energy that you are using. 70% is a huge number.
It is a huge number.
I mean, if you do
and
it
I've
over America,
talked
think about that.
with people in utilities around the country, and they agree that that's achievable. So we did a very intensive study, and we had world experts helping us do the parts that we weren't sure about. And I'm very, very confident with the results of that study. And what we really want is for other communities to pick up and do it too, not just here.
So have you sort of set up a template or some way that, like my community, the viewers' community, can model what they do after yours?
Well, actually, yeah, we have a lot of information on our website, which is www.iere.org. Click on energy, and there's information on how to measure your energy use by the community, how to figure out how much renewable energy you have, and all of the economic analysis that people can just use. And it's totally free to the public, and we just want people to use it.
Great.
And the entire country could be energy independent in 10 years if we wanted to be.
That's pretty radical. I mean, in the face of energy independent mainly for our buildings.
Yeah, our study was looking at buildings. The reason we can't be energy independent for transportation is that the car companies haven't given us electric cars.
Yeah. Once we get electric cars and good batteries, we can take care of a lot of that.
We'll be set.
Yeah. Great. Well, now, you have a group of citizens who, I mean, it's doable in Vashon, you say, but you said political will is a critical factor here. So
Absolutely.
I want to know and this probably gets to where you are, Deirdre. How do you get mobilized? What form could that take so that you as a community can take and run with that idea?
Absolutely, and part of the modeling that we're hoping to do is not only to allow other communities to come in and look at the science and the economics, but then to sort of produce a template for them to put together the political will and to take it out to their communities. And that's still evolving, but I'm a relative newcomer to this. I joined up about a year ago, and was pretty immediately impressed. It's a very compelling message, and had a long history in environmental issues, but this was sort of a no-brainer, and it was something that I felt like we could really easily communicate to the community, and it would be something that people would really respond to. So we did. We started meeting with some citizens, and it was very encouraging because right off the bat, people were there. You know, I have a long history of community outreach, and generally, people come out of outrage. It's very hard to get people to come out to meetings and to get-togethers because they feel really excited and positive about something. It's generally because they're furious. So the very first meeting we had, there was 20, 30 people, and they were all really excited. So it was a little unprecedented.
We can save money. We can do the right thing. What's there to protest?
Exactly, exactly. So it was a lovely fresh breath of air for me.
Nice.
But we've gotten together, and it's been a huge collaborative effort, and we're really doing it with very little money. Very grassroots, trying to use all the kind of sort of free communication avenues that we can. And we've had just a tremendous response from the community.
What are you wanting your community to do? I mean, you're going to rally the troops here to...
Well, we want the community to own it, really, to own it and to own the idea, the concept, and to really want to come on board and be part of the Vashon Public Utilities. What we are putting together is a voluntary system. So what we're putting onto the ballot in November is an initiative that would allow us to create a voluntary public utility district.
So you don't have a public utility district on Vashon at this time, is that right?
That's right.
Okay.
In fact, Vashon is unincorporated. It's part of King County, but it is not a town or a municipality in and of itself. And so we don't even really have an existing bureaucratic structure to start. So that's a huge...
Not like a city or...
Right, so that can be a huge barrier, but it's also a huge opportunity because it allows us to create something out of whole cloth, which is what we're doing. Okay. So our sort of platform is that this will be a voluntary program, and people will sign up for it. There'll be sort of a monthly fee, but that generally the monthly fee will be more than offset by their energy savings. So the PUD is proposing to be sort of a clearinghouse for information and contractors, and to come in and do energy audits for anyone who wants it. And then there'll be a recommendation for the kind of improvements and retrofits that could help save the most money, the most energy.
For each building?
For each individual building, each individual homeowner. And then people would opt to do some of those, all of those, whatever package they want. And the PUD would then be able to finance up front those improvements.
So that's where the money, I was going to say, where's this money going? I was ready to get where's this money go? So the money is to create a fund to assist people to put in their insulation or their
new windows or,
The public utility district would actually do the upgrades. So the homeowner wouldn't have to pay anything up front.
Right.
The public utility borrows the money, it does the work, and then the customers pay back with a monthly fee.
Fabulous.
And then the utility would also provide yearly maintenance. So a lot of things, it wouldn't just sort of be a handshake and then we're out the door and then you're on your own. So,
because that's where you're going to keep your savings happening is if you find you need to improve something or something broke or whatever.
New technology comes online all the time, and so this allows the residents of the community to really be plugged in to what kind of new breaks there are, what kind of technology there is. We think as we grow and get more membership, we'll have better bargaining power to bring in sort of bigger scale projects if that's something that the community wants.
You mean so that you could, I don't know what you would do for, do a generating plant of power or biomass or whatever?
Well, we have an existing power company here, Vashon Energy, and we're in no way trying to compete with them. They will remain the power supplier. But their programs for conservation are somewhat limited, and we just think that sort of having that community benefit as our motive is something that could really assist people here in this community. So sort of complementary. So they would continue to supply the power. We don't have any interest or designs in becoming retail power distributors.
Okay.
But we would like to eventually look at helping renewable energy come into the community.
How might that happen? How might you get renewables here?
There's a couple different ways you could do renewables here. The PUD could be empowered, or if it gets on through the ballot, would be empowered to generate renewable energy.
Okay.
So it can do that either by being a generator or by working with homeowners and putting solar cells on their roofs or building small net metered wind turbines.
Okay. Does Washington State have that kind of, we do in California, where you generate, that energy goes back in the grid and you get credits for that.
Yeah.
Good. So that you're doing small scale generating if by different homeowners being tied to the grid. That's one way. But you have possibility for some wind generation. I would think you do sometimes here on the island.
Yeah. In fact, wind power is the cheapest renewable power on the island. So it remains to be seen what's going to happen, but certainly there's a potential for building sizable wind turbines here.
Interesting, enviable actually, because you've got that untapped,
Right.
that you can use. So what I can picture is that with the efforts that the citizens can make, is to take advantage of that 70% possibility for just by conserving. Which means I would guess a lot of retrofitting. I mean, you're not going to be all built. I mean, you've got a lot of buildings already here.
Right.
What kind of technologies? I may be sending you off in an odd direction, but what kind of possibilities can homeowners be imagining for what they might do?
Well, it's very impressive. We've done a couple of case studies already, just to look at what we're trying, sort of average homes on the island. We neither sort of selected, the draftiest, oldest house, nor the most modern insulated house. We looked at a couple of different styles, a 1970s Rambler, and then an older Victorian. And most of the retrofits are very low tech. I mean, we're not talking about, well, you're going to have to invest $20,000 in a heat pump, or these are mostly looking at more insulation, better windows, a lot of ducting. Some of these old houses, their ducting is really failing. What are some of the other really common?
Well, I mean, really simple things like the compact fluorescent light bulbs.
Compact fluorescents, yeah.
But
And when they have to swap out appliances, more efficient appliances.
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly.
I mean, new refrigerators generally pay for themselves within the first 3-4 years, if you're looking at a 20-year-old refrigerator. But in the first house we did, the 1970s Rambler, our analysis came back, so exactly right on the study, 70% savings to be had with under $5,000 worth of improvements.
Which is going to come back, and I mean, I can't see anybody losing in this whole proposition here.
Yeah.
And what you're doing also is you're making it easier.
Exactly.
And that's I
exactly
imagine
it.
that's a big part of the hurdle for a lot of folks. They're either overwhelmed to not know what to do, or the technical skill, or not.
Well, who do you call? Right now, I mean, people just don't know where to start, and they don't know what contractors they can trust. And being in an island, we also have a limited number of contractors who have the expertise to be able to put in the retrofits. And so one of the things we're hoping to do, as if the PUD passes, is to basically bring the level of expertise up on the island and hopefully provide jobs.
I was going to say, yes, because if you're going to need to have people skilled to do those energy audits, as well as to do some of the work that's involved in bringing people's conservation up.
Absolutely, and the work has to be of a certain quality because the PUD will stand behind it. So that's another thing that is a huge benefit for people, because not only will we make it easy for them, but we'll guarantee the work. So really, it's a phone call away. And
This is fabulous.
And your energy bills go down. Why wouldn't you do
I mean,
this?
that's part of the no-brainer. So certainly you're paying out to have the PUD exist, and in that sense, you're investing in, but you're getting it all back.
You're getting it all back and then some. You're actually saving money from the very first month.
That's really exciting.
And we're doing it without taxes. So that's a big bottom line for people.
Well, we're going to definitely be watching in November. I can't imagine your community not wanting to do this. But I imagine educating everybody about this so they know there's not a hidden agenda or a gotcha or a big corporation who's going to benefit behind this. All those things that our current elections, there's mistrust about, uncertainty on the ballots. So, so you've got a great vision for sharing it with other communities as well. Is there a website? Are you starting to build templates yet, or is it still in the formation?
Right, there is a baby website, and we're still building it. So, but we are putting together a lot of materials, and we're really relying heavily on community media, both print and other. But this is, you know, ultimately this is the kind of campaign every person would love to run, because it's really it's such an easy answer.
Win, the world wins. You know, all of that is together in this one place.
Absolutely, and we're an island that we're heavily children focused on the island. There's a lot of families who moved out here to try to provide sort of a life closer to the land, closer to the food source here on the island, and so people are very tuned in to what does this mean for my kids? I mean, where are we going in the world, and what can I do about it? Well, this is something that we can do about it here in our community for our children to help make sure that their community is still around for them.
I'm going to go back for just a second to the notion of a public utilities district that you are forming. Not every community can do that, is that right? I mean, why? What is this? Is there a model here? How do I say this? We have corporations, you know, that are running our electricity, you know, provide our electricity, just as you have Puget Sound. Is that right? Puget Power?
Puget Sound Energy.
Puget Sound Energy. To form a public utility district puts you all in charge of those utilities, right? Is that model replicable, I guess is my question, in other communities, or where would it not be replicable?
Well, I think it would depend heavily on your state regulations. I can't think of an instance where it would be obviously not applicable, but you do have to have, I think, the cooperation or at least the willingness, the reception of your local power company.
Okay.
But truly, the whole concept of doing conservation and renewable energy doesn't require a public utility district. We have to do it here on the island because we don't have a local government. But any municipality is empowered to do conservation and renewable energy. So you could just go lobby your local city or town and say, please do this, because it's just a matter of choosing to do this. And I think certainly for the communities that are signing on to the Kyoto Protocol, this is a no-brainer. They make money for their citizens and they accomplish their goals.
What's really nice is that you're including that it's voluntary, so anybody can do that. In my community, we're just starting to form an energy co-op, many of whose purposes I think are the same as yours, is to have money coming in and then help people find ways to conserve energy, to use bulk buying power to get less expensive solar panels or less expensive compact fluorescents for their members and so on. So that, I mean, it's a beautiful example of citizens, grassroots, help ourselves in the energy world. We've only got about 3 minutes. Have we got any thoughts in here that we haven't remembered, or last moments? I mean, why are you both doing this?
Why are we both doing it? I was trained as an oceanographer, and I couldn't get a job as an oceanographer when I got out of grad school because the whole infrastructure kind of fell apart. But when you study oceanography, you study the whole world, and you develop this great love for the Earth as a system. And climate change is wrecking our Earth. That's why I'm doing this. And I have kids, and I want them to have an Earth. That's what motivates me.
That's a big reason, big reason.
Yeah.
And you, Deirdre?
Well, I think one of the lessons of Hurricane Katrina last year was certainly that the more interdependent we become, the more vulnerable we become as communities. And this is one way that communities can help take control of their own future.
Well, I salute you both. And thank you for a lot of communities that are probably listening in here to say, aha, we can do it. And doing it on, I mean, I really appreciate that there's a lot of spade work being done to have done the studies. And I think that's often a barrier for a lot of communities, because to go in front of your municipality and say, to wave our hands is not nearly as valuable as to say, look, we have what we need, here's the studies, we can do this, let's put a little money into doing it for our community, the research, improving it, and then having models to be, say, on Vashon, in 5 years when we come back and you tell us your success story of, 75% of the island has signed on and you've saved, however many carbon out of the atmosphere as well as money for people. We will be looking to that and to your models. Thank you for joining us.
Thank
Thank you for having us. It's been fun.
Yay. You've been watching Peak Moment, Community Responses for a Changing Energy Future. I'm Janaea Donaldson, and join us next time.